Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. I want to thank you all for coming and sitting in on Keeping Up with Caiques. Little bit about Emily. She is in the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants as a supporting member specializing in Caiques. She's an allied professional member of the Association of Avian Veterinarians, owner and operator of CaiqueCrazy.com and CaiqueForum.com. She's written for Bird Talk, Bird Channel, Pet Gazette, and In Your Flock. She's a member of the American Federation of Aviculture, Level 2 Aviculturist, and she's a certified avian specialist with PJAC. I've known Emily for about 10 years now or so, and I was very impressed at such a young age with her knowledge. So I am thrilled that she is here sharing it all with you today. So I'd like to welcome Emily Trimnal.
Hello. Okay, and I'm a really quiet speaker, so if you can't hear me, just feel free to yell at me or make gestures or something. Is that good? Yee. Okay. Yay, a clicker thingy. Okay. So this presentation is Keeping Up with Caiques. I'm not a breeder at all. I have no breeder experience, so this entire presentation is going to be more Caiques from the pet perspective and the behavior perspective. Hey, look at that. Okay, so first we're going to go into an overview of the different types of Caiques. One of the most common types that you'll see as pets, black-headed Caique. I would tell you the scientific name, but I'm going to butcher it. It's on my website if you want to look at it. Thank you. I am just horrible at really long words, and I didn't want to make myself look foolish. So this is an image of a black-headed Caique. It's actually my boy, Higgins. And the map that you see is their natural distribution map. So if you were to go to South America, Peru, I think that's Peru, you would see these birds there. Now, the black-headed Caique has a subspecies known as the Pallid Caique. They look a lot alike, don't they? I don't have a pointer, but... Oh, hey, I have a pointer. Look at that. Cool deal. Okay, so the only way to discern the Pallid from the blackhead is the thighs. Black-headed Caique has mottled orange and yellow thighs. They actually look more orange. The Pallid is pure yellow. We do not have this subspecies in the USA as a pet currently, unless there's a breeder breeding them that I am unaware of. You will see them as pets in Peru and the surrounding areas, but they're not really bred in the US. They're bred a little bit in the UK, and I want to say parts of Europe. Okay, so the next is probably one that everybody knows, the white-bellied Caique. You'll notice that I've differentiated that this is the yellow thigh Caique. The reason for this is because all of the white-bellied Caiques, and all Caiques actually for this matter, have white bellies. What we call the white-bellied Caique is actually the yellow thigh Caique. There's 3 different species. The yellow thigh is the dominant species, and then it has 2 subspecies. This is a green thigh Caique. The difference between the yellow thigh Caique and the green thigh Caique is the really cute lime green little thighs. Oh, it is? Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay. And there are very few breeders in the United States breeding green thighs. I know that Nancy used to breed them. I don't know where the rest of the population is right now. They're not available in the pet trade, to my knowledge, because we have such a low number of them. They're kept back for... Oh, really? Cool. I've never, in the general pet population, when I talk about stuff, I'm kind of really generalizing it. So in the general pet trade, you don't see them. You don't really see them at bird fairs, bird marts, whatever. You would have to know someone that's a breeder and then obtain one as a baby. This is the yellowtail caique. The difference between the yellowtail caique and all the other caiques is this really cute bright yellow tail. Again, you won't see them in the United States. Not sure about their pet quality. I'm not sure if anyone keeps them as pets. They're really one of the lesser known species. Let's see if I... Haha. Okay. One thing that I did not mention in here is that there is overlap between the yellowtail and the green-thighed territory naturally. So there's actually a paper published by someone named No Waves, and he hypothesizes that there's like an intermediary species because there's a lot of crossover between the green thigh and the yellowtail in the wild. So we actually have a couple specimens of a green thigh yellowtail caique. I'm not sure what the status is on that anymore, but it's really cool to see such overlap. Okay, so I kind of went over this already, but the yellow thigh versus the blackhead. You'll meet a lot of people that say, oh, well, one's more outgoing, one's mellower. Everybody has their own individual preference, but what it really boils down to is looks. A lot of how the bird acts, its individuality, is just on a bird-to-bird basis. So that bird is going to be how you raised it. There's no reason that you should buy a black-headed over white-bellied, or vice versa. It's just your personal preference as far as coloration. I went over this. Two species available: black-headed caiques, yellow thigh caiques, aka white belly. I'll probably use the term interchangeably. Just know that when I do, I'm actually meaning the yellow thigh. Already went over the fact that the white-bellied caique is a yellow thigh, because all yellow thigh caiques are white bellies, but not all white-bellied caiques are yellow thighs. Okay, so now I have some cool pictures of mutations. This is an older bird. This was submitted to John McMichael's Caique site. This bird is not ill, so the coloration isn't caused by disease, medication, or anything. It is an older bird, which means that this is not like a juvenile plumage that has been molted out. That's pretty much the only information that we have on this bird right now, is that it exists. And there haven't been any updates from the family that owns the bird in 5 years. So whether or not this is like a reoccurring mutation within a breeding set, I honestly have no idea, but I thought it's interesting. This is the first black-headed caique mutation that I'm aware of, although it's not technically a proven mutation because this bird died as a juvenile, and we never got to see if it, as it progressed through into its adult plumage, whether or not it kept that plumage. But you can see here, this is a normal black-headed caique, and this is the mutation. When the bird was living, they were calling it a sea green mutation due to the differences in the pigment on the green feathers. Now these next guys are the really cool ones. This is a juvenile black-headed, pallid caique mutation. This bird was bred in Australia, which I found really surprising. I'm jealous that they have pallid caiques and we don't. But this baby came from 2 normal black-headed parents and was the only one out of the clutch that had this coloration. So these are pictures of the baby, and then it's blue. I have adult pictures of it later on. So this is the adult. I know, it's pretty, right? And when this picture actually first came out, it was sent to me through a blog that I was doing. And I looked at that and I was like, Photoshop. And I was actually contacted by someone that knows the breeder, who provided me with those pictures of the baby in the nest box and has kept me updated as to the status of the bird. So this is a legit mutation. And you can see, pallid. Click. This is also a blue blue Caique mutation. I'm unsure as to whether it's occurring in a pallid or the black-headed species. This bird, you can see that the blue has a different kind of sheen on it. I'm not sure if it's from flash or funky lighting. I was actually sent a link to a website where this bird was listed. It is also in Australia. It's actually from a different set of birds. So this blue mutation and that other blue mutation that I just showed you are actually different birds from different sets, which is good because it means that those who are interested can now kind of start getting the genes and putting together and trying to breed for this mutation if they want to. This is a picture of a different blue mutation, and I believe this one is actually occurring on not the pallid, but the main black-headed species. And this was taken in Germany, I believe. So now we not only have the Australian sample, but we have the German sample as well, which is really interesting. This cute little dude. I actually was going online the other day and looking for pictures of this blue mutation because my laptop was being a little pain, and I found this little adorable bird for sale in Australia. It was on an auction site. The same person was actually auctioning off 2 different blue mutation babies. This year's babies. One's a cock and one's a hen. And if anyone wants to buy me one as a present, they're $35,000. There's also, while we're on the topic of mutations, I had a breeder contact me in Panama that actually has exported a blue mutation from, I don't remember where he exported it from. He's been breeding that bird to try and reproduce the mutation with no success, and his is actually on the pallid subspecies as well. Okay, so kind of segueing from the mutations into behavior, this is a really common behavior trait that everybody loves. Can I play it again? Okay. Is there a way to like click it and make it go again? Okay. Cool. Oh, we're not. Oh, yay. Isn't that adorable? Okay, and so this is the Caique. So this is the Caique Hop. It's one of probably the Caique's most noticed characteristics. In their natives of Peru, because of their hopping ability, they're actually referred to as the dancing parrot. This behavior is natural, not entirely sure why, and it's a really easy behavior to train. That bird, in fact, the person to train that behavior on command just kept rewarding the bird when the behavior occurred and then associated it with a cue, and so there you go. It's adorable. So I have another video of a really common Caique behavior, if I can get it to come up. Click. Or not. It won't go. It doesn't like me. Clicking. Ah, nope. No, that's Parrot Island in Minnesota. Okay, so this is a video that I found on YouTube of what is the owner of this bird. If this clip ever loads, the owner of this bird called this the surfing behavior. It's another common Caique trait. It's a displaced leaf bathing behavior. This bird is actually, if and when the clip loads, exhibiting more of just like a natural bathing behavior. And the next clip that I have will show you the surfing that everybody loves. Play. I think it's stuck. It's okay. My poor little slideshow with its issues. No. I can always skip it and just go to the next one. If it's being a pain. Oh, there we go. So you can see that he's, well, okay, you can see that he's already wet and that he's just kind of running around the towels, flapping his wings, being adorable. But there we go. That, the flapping of the wings and the preening and the like mild surfing on the soft cushion thing, that's more of an outright bathing behavior for Caiques. When people think of surfing, I'm just gonna go to the next. I can't. Can you go to the next slide for me? Yay. Okay, so when people think of surfing, they think of this behavior, which this Caique decided to take right. So when people say that their Caique surf, this is what they do. They hang on to a material or a texture, mainly texture that they like, and they rub their bodies all over it. They do it on towels, they do it on polar fleece, they do it if they're dry, if they're wet. They'll do it in hair, which really sucks if you have long hair or curly hair. And you can see this little bugger is enjoying it. So this is displaced loose bathing behavior. What that means is that in the wild, Caiques live in the canopy. So to bathe, they don't really bathe like other birds. They don't have the rain fall on them as much. So they bathe in the collected rainwater on the leaves. So if you were to give your Caique like wet foliage, they would go to town because that's their natural bathing behavior. And Caiques love water, so any form of water is good. Let's see. Okay, so common behavioral issues. This list I got I kind of pulled it out of my hat. It's the top 5, however many that is, behavior issues that people complain to me about and or come to me with questions about how to remedy. So one of the top ones is unwanted vocalizations. This can mean screaming, this can mean that really weird beep thing that Caiques do sometimes, or just any other kind of natural vocalization or learned vocalization that people do not like. Nippiness and biting. Biting's probably another one of the top ones. As with any bird. Not getting along with other birds. Not being social towards other people. There's also behaviors that are associated with excessive hormonal tendencies during certain times of the year. And then the main one, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality. I say that when my Caiques are being good, they are oh so good. And when they're being bad, you don't want to get near them with a 10-foot pole. And you kind of, sometimes you can know when that behavior is going to change, depending on what side of the perch they woke up on. And sometimes there's just seemingly no rhyme or reason for their behavior. Their behavioral differences. Let's see, I don't remember. Oh, okay. So, okay, so I would, I just kind of want to run through a little bit more about these behaviors. So the nippiness and biting, that's a big one. Caiques are often referred to as the pit bulls of the bird world because unlike my cockatoo, who she's, pissed off or scared or whatever and she bites, she lets go and then we're good. Higgins, he goes for the throat and then he latches on and he is not happy until you've let out. When they bite, they normally don't bite and then immediately release. They like to bite and then see how long they can hang on, which, it's really hard to pry a Caique off of your hand that's hanging on if you're only one person and only one-handed. So that's generally where what people come to me with. It's not so much the fact that they bite, it's the fact that they don't want to stop biting. Now, the nippiness I threw in there because Caiques use their beak as a third arm. So if you offer any of my birds a hand to step up, they come at you beak first, which to someone that's not familiar with parrot behavior and especially not familiar with Caiques, that's really intimidating because they're like, oh my gosh, my bird's going to bite me. No, that's just how they step up. They want to make sure that they have a stable surface. They want to kind of test the waters. Doesn't mean that they're lunging at you. The not getting along with other birds is a big one. Caiques have Napoleon syndrome. they think that they're the biggest and baddest thing around. I've had one of mine jump my macaw because he thought he could God knows what. But they generally, now there's always exceptions to the rule, and it's different too if you've raised your bird as a baby around other birds. But kind of as a general rule, people tend to have issues having their caiques around the other birds as the bird matures. And of course it's a trainable behavior that you can work with, but it always makes me cringe to see someone that has a caique in an aviary with like ringnecks or a similar sized bird, because that can always end badly. The not being social towards other people, that can be said of any bird, but with caiques, if they don't like you, you're kind of screwed. I've had my Higgins for 10 years, and he loves me and only me, and God knows why, but he's known my husband for 4 years, and the only time that my husband can handle Higgins is if I'm out of the state. Like, if I'm not home, they're good. But otherwise, no. And we don't know why they make those kind of decisions about the individuals, because it's not like dealing with other birds. If they don't have a positive interaction with someone else, they may not like that person. With caiques, it seems to be more of a, oh, you don't like you. And it's really hard to retrain that behavior because they're very pit bull-ish. They're very determined and stubborn, and God help you if a caique doesn't like you. The excessive hormonal tendencies during certain times of the year is something that I counsel people on frequently. It seems to be somewhat dietary linked, as well as a bunch of other environmental factors, but they have mood swings, like all women, except caique mood swings are just awful and only tend to happen 2 times a year. But you can notice a really big influx of unwanted behaviors, from vocalizations to biting to attacking other birds, attacking people. You name it, it probably happens in hormonal season. Okay, so can you click that link and play it for me, please? So this is a YouTube clip, and it says fight, but it's not really a fight. It's caiques behaving as caiques do, which is rolling around and pulling each other's tails and biting at each other's legs. If it ever loads, there we go. And these are actually 2 people that belong to my caique forum. I don't know if these birds are siblings. I don't think so. But as babies especially, you'll see caiques rolling around. They love to do the pin thing, and you'll notice though that they're being very gentle. They're not out of control. They're not going for the eyes or the jugular or anything else that could actually harm the other bird. This is just how caiques play. And if people don't know this or have never seen it, it really can scare some people, because to the uninitiated, it does look like fighting. And I actually didn't watch this far into the clip, so I'm not too sure what happens. You can pause it at any time if you want to. Yeah, yes please. But as you can see, they absolutely love to roughhouse. Okay, cool. So, food and hormones. So counseling Caique over the years, I found that certain foods during hormonal periods can really help reduce or induce hormonal behaviors. The majority of Caique owners that I know have their birds on a mix of seed, pellets, fresh foods, and what have you. Recommending a hemp-free seed diet and also no pumpkin seeds or any kind of high zinc foods has really helped reduce hormonal behavior in the very few non-scientific studies that I've done with the people who've come to me with issues. So when I was doing research on this, I found out that high zinc foods are natural natural libido boosters. So if you've ever gone into the gas station and seen those little over-the-counter supplements that are like, go all night, or, you know, increase libido or whatever, and they claim that they're all natural, if you look at the ingredients of them, they're mainly comprised of zinc and magnesium. Now, the reason for recommending a reduction or elimination of pumpkin seeds during this hormonal time is because that pumpkin seeds have one of the highest natural concentrations of zinc, and they're in just about every bird food out there. When I was helping someone modify her bird's environment and diet to reduce hormonal behaviors, we found only one seed mix that did not contain pumpkin seeds, and actually few pellets that did not contain like crushed up pumpkin seeds or hemp additives. The bird that I was helping with was a single female white-bellied caique. The person had her all of its life. I think it was about 5 when this started happening, and this bird that was normally sweet and happy went to, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you all the time. I'm going to run around the house and try to kill you. And that was unacceptable to the owner. And so she tried a few behavioral modification systems that I had recommended and just was not making any progress. And so when we looked at the diet, and I was recommending that she adjust the lighting schedule to kind of offset the hormones. There we go. I recommended that she change her bird's diet as far as the seed mix and the pellets she was on. 2 weeks later, she came back and said that she could handle her bird again. So, and that's actually been a somewhat regular occurrence. It's not an instant cure, and there's more to that behavior than just food, obviously, but I keep finding that food is a really important role of the caique's behaviors. So now it's one of the first things that I look at if someone's coming to me with sudden behavioral changes. Let's see. Okay, so biting. I already mentioned that caiques use their beak as a third arm, so it's not uncommon for a caique to step up beak first. They generally, when they step up beak first, they don't have their beak open, or if they do, they won't apply pressure. They'll like move with their beak, attach their beak to your finger, and then kind of pull themselves up. I always remind people that there is never a behavior without warning. So even if we don't fully know why a bird is doing what it's doing, there's always really subtle signals and changes that will alert us to why a bird is biting or exhibiting any unwanted behavior. So a lot of the times, especially with new caique owners that have just brought their baby home, I have to counsel them on the difference between true biting and then chewing, because caiques, even adult caiques, they like to go in that webbing between your fingers and just chew the crap out of them. They're not being malicious, they just like to chew. So I found that most caiques like kind of like rubber toys. They make some for birds, but even like dog Kongs, it's something about the texture that they just really, really like. So I always help people try to differentiate and trade wanted behaviors and then extinguishing the unwanted ones. And that is just a funny, because I'm sure that every caique owner at some time has felt that their bird wants to suck their blood. Been there, done that. Not fun. Oh, that's awesome. I hadn't heard of that before. I normally hear that people have a little something rubber thing that they always put in their bird's mouth instead, but that's a really good idea. Okay, so probably the most frequently asked question, are 2 caiques better than 1? And if so, why? Well, the benefits of having multiple birds, even different species, is you have a flock mentality within your birds that you can't replicate. Even if you're the best bird owner in the world, you're still not a bird. So having more than one bird can provide like passive kind of, I don't know how to really describe it. Also, two Caiques, you saw those guys playing. It's hard for us to play with our birds the way that other birds would play. So, having two birds in a lot of Caique cases actually makes things better because they can wear each other out and they wrestle and they're good, and then they're not expecting that behavior from you, so then you can just enjoy them. Because Caiques are very, very active. They're kind of like little kids that got into the sugar and ate the bag of sugar, and then you sent them home with the parents, and their parents call you because their kids are bouncing off the walls. That's kind of a Caique, except they have the attention span of a moth, so keeping them occupied can be really difficult. So for the right home environment, I do recommend two Caiques, even if you cage them separately, but let them have their together playtime. It's a really good, and I feel like it's a really natural thing for the birds. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Two birds or multiple birds is always more work than one. And what I tell people when they're asking me if they should get a second bird is, one, do you want a second bird? Because you're not going to be doing your bird any favors by bringing another bird into the house unless it's a bird that you want and you're going to interact with and you're prepared to take up that extra work. So if you get a second bird for you with the hopes that those two birds will interact and have like a friendship, a little birdie friendship, that's awesome. But I never recommend going out and getting a second bird just for a bird, because if you're having those issues, there's obviously like things that you need to work on within that relationship with your own bird. Sure. Most people that I know have male and female, just from a pet perspective. I'm not sure why. You'll hear different opinions about, well, males can get really weird during breeding season, or same with females. I really don't think that it matters too much, because I never really recommend that they cage the birds together regardless of their sex. They stick them in the same cage. And yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I've always, well, not always. I started out with one Caique, but then I very quickly adopted a second one, and I've always kept my birds housed separately. I did try housing both of my Caiques together in the same cage. I combined two 30 by 40 cages, so they had like an 80 by 60 space, and I still found that they migrated to separate parts of the cages. They'd interact some, but they weren't interacting anymore housed together. I have heard a couple of very sad stories where someone had Caiques together for years. They weren't a breeding pair. I actually don't remember if it was like a male-female, male-male, whatever. The person went to work and came home and found one of the birds dead on the cage, and it was obvious that the other bird had a role to play in that bird's death. So just, I always tell people to let their birds dictate the relationship. I had my close to 20-year-old female blackhead die. And I had recently adopted a 7 or 8-year-old white-bellied Caique from a very loving family. And as soon as that my blackhead female died, I tried to start introducing my male to her, just because they had always been together, and I really felt bad that that relationship was gone. And so they still haven't decided that they're okay. They'll share the same play stand, but that's about all the interaction that they want. And as long as I respect that relationship and encourage positive interaction, that's cool. And that's what I try to really, tell people to do with their birds. Let's see. So just kind of an overview. The Caiques, they're not for the faint of heart. They're a small bird, but they have a really big personality. And because they're so small, but that big personality, that boisterous, how hard they can bite, just everything about them, they're not for a timid bird owner. They're actually really great family birds. They're not really a one-person bird. They like people. They like new faces. They like new interactions. And I actually have a couple people on the forum that have had a Caique from a baby and raised it with their family, raised it with their young kids, and it's done great. They're very engaging, they're very interactive, and they're extremely intelligent. But because they're so intelligent, it makes keeping their focus very trying. So generally, if you see a Caique, you'll notice that they probably have double the amount of toys in their cage than someone else's bird. Why is that? It's because they have an attention span of a moth. They may play with this toy for 5 seconds, get bored of it, go play with this toy for 10 seconds. Oh, well, that other toy looked interesting again. Or I'm just going to play on the bottom of my cage. So they take a lot more stimulation to keep them from getting bored. Kind of an overview, there's 2 species of pets in the United States. They're yellow thigh and blackhead. And I think that every home needs a Caique because they're awesome. That's kind of my little talk rant thingy. And I have more time, so I just thought I would just kind of open it up to questions. My female blackhead that died had been a plucker from the time she was 6, and that was actually the reason that she was given up. We ruled out any medical related reasoning for her plucking. It was a behavioral, emotional. She was always a very neurotic type of bird. Actually, my white belly is also a plucker. It hasn't yet been able to be linked to medical, but there still may be something underlying that we're just not getting. Most of the Caiques that I've heard of that are plucking, it's medically related. They don't seem to be prone to the more emotional aspect of plucking like other birds do. Quick note, because I forgot that I was going to throw this in there. Both of my Caiques are adopted, which means that they've come to me as older birds for issues. One of them came because of his extreme behavioral issues, and the other one came just because the family wasn't feeling that they were meeting her needs any longer. Within the Caique community, if there's a bird up for adoption, they get reabsorbed back into the community really quickly. Everybody loves a Caique. Over the summer, I visited 15. I think it was 15. I visited 15 different avian rescues and adoption centers for a project that I'm doing, and I only saw 5 Caiques. I was shocked. You just don't see them a lot in wanting homes, and the ones that generally do need homes, I've seen it either be due to one of 2 things. Either the family can no longer care for them because of moving or a new baby or any of your other common sob stories, or the bird has extreme behavioral issues that makes them kind of a menace to the current family and the other birds around them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah. CaiqueCrazy.com. It's a website that I started, 7 years ago. Maybe longer than that. Anyway, I had just had my Caique for a little while, and I was trying to find behavioral information about them as pets versus breeders, and This was before they really started exploding in popularity. They were getting more noticed by the general public, but all of the information out there, or the majority of the information out there about them, was from a breeder perspective. So I started throwing together anything and everything that I could find, and have been updating that site frequently. It's caiquecrazy.com, and it deals with a lot of the common behavioral issues and dietary requirements, stuff like that. The forum is up. So the forum is just what it sounds like. It's a forum. It's dedicated to Caiques. It's run mainly by a bunch of Caique crazy people that like to lament about their birds' issues or rejoice in the really cute videos that we get, because these are such crazy birds. The website is the one that's down. It got hacked. But I have a lot of more mutation pictures to add when it's back up, so you should check it out. Yeah, the website is down, but the forum's back up right now. Yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah. Any more questions from anybody? No? I think I went through my talk really, really quickly on accident. So, yeah, I did. I'm sorry about that. So, if anyone has any questions or anything for me, I'll probably be hanging out in the vendor area, and I'm here the rest of the weekend. So, thanks for listening.